will say that this is my favorite topic, hands down, bar none. And people who didn't make this presentation, unfortunately, stopped at the seeking level. So, you know, I want to applaud everyone who's in the room right now because, you know, you're really digging deep. I'm digging deep. I think the hip hop preacher was wrong about one thing. You do need sleep. It's not working. But I'm going to dig and try to give you as much value as I can today. And I'm going to say this because I really believe this. If, when you bring an agent onto your team, you have to have a system for training them. And one of the biggest things, ahas I had, because I've just been randomly thinking like, what else can I say that brought value? What else can I say that, just to bring more value? When I read the Rockefeller Habits, it was chapter 1. Very first of the book. It might even not have been a chapter before the chapter. And it said, you can't change the way people think. It said, use this book as a tool for your staff, for your team. So I went out and bought it for everybody because remember, I went to lunch with the guy who said, hey, I heard Alex gives this book to everyone that works for him. So I read it, and that was a good takeaway. What I connected with that is that if you come work in my office, you're watching videos when you get there. That's the first thing you're doing. And not only are you watching videos, one of the things that, if I had internet leads, they would be watching the video of the presentation you just saw. Because people have to know why they're doing something, right? And so I think it's in your best interest to make sure that you don't pass up on an opportunity with not getting the DVDs because they're an amazing tool. And I don't say that, we don't have to record the whole thing. We do it because, again, if you needed water, I would tell you, and I had 8 glasses and you only wanted 2, I would say you really need to have 8 because that's my responsibility, right? And so I just want to make sure that everybody knows if you haven't made the investment in your business to get the DVDs, it is a good tool that you might not have been thinking. But this information is something that if you choreograph it and you put it into what I consider as a lesson plan, I have 3 years of these. So I have like breaking down the whole lead broad process from 2 years ago, and when you collectively, let's say someone's going to help you with your newsletter program, but they need to understand all the things that go into it. You tell them, hey, listen, we're working on a newsletter. I want you to watch this DVD, and then I want to break down all the tasks, the milestones, the project, so we can get it implemented, right? So you're not trying to just randomly do it all yourself, and it's a good tool. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that to everybody because I think it's powerful. So the newsletter is basically important, and here's one of the reasons why I think it's important. I had a lady, and this was a week ago. She got my newsletter, and I'm going to tell you all the when, where's, what's, why's, and how's. I mean, we've given you a lot of strategy, a lot of philosophy. We owed it to you to make sure that, you win before you even start. And this is more of a tactical, it's a tactic effort. There's some strategy into it. But this lady called my office, calls recorded, and she said, hey, my sister told me, or my daughter told me her name was Marcia, I don't remember last name, but my daughter told me that I needed to call you to list my house. And it was a weird kind of a story because my daughter thought you were out of real estate until she got your newsletter. And she hadn't been getting my newsletter because, first of all, your newsletter, you have your database and all those good things, and we're still building out some of the processes there. But anyway, for some reason she hadn't been getting it, and she got it. She told her mom about it. Her mom then called my office, and we took the listing. I believe we either took it last week or the week before. Right, Mike? Last week. So it was weird because the newsletter makes you money, right? So here's the whole philosophy on why you need a newsletter. Right now, your database is either appreciating or depreciating every day. So imagine this. Imagine if you go to closing and you're done. It's a $300,000 house. And you close on the house and you get your $9,000 check. And as you're walking out, there's a stack of $240,000 sitting there right at the door. And your clients are shaking your hand and saying, thanks so much for everything. They say, hey, listen, we're wanting to give you $9,000 a year for the next 20 years, but you just have to do one thing. Just keep in touch with us. See, statistically, everybody knows somebody that is going to make a move nationally, 12 people a year, locally 4. And you either have a system that's consistently communicating to them or you don't. So the newsletter is based upon, in my opinion, it is the tool that manages the variable that affects lifetime value. Does that make sense? So you have to have a tool, and there's all kinds of different tactics that you can do. The newsletter, we're going to break it down why it's one of the best tools. So you basically influence that with the communication, and your communication is going to be basically what it is. I'm sorry, the slide threw me off. I'm going to tell you what it is, why it is, how it is, and all those things that I had to figure out, because a newsletter, how many people are doing a newsletter now? Okay. How many people think already at the end of this presentation they might end up doing a newsletter? And we're on track. This is a copy of my newsletter, and I want to explain to you, there's a book by a guy named Cialdini, and it's called Influence. It's how do you influence your customers? The psychology of the marketing, right? This newsletter is not just put together. There's a lot of psychology that went into this newsletter, and we're going to break this down. The number one marketing tool that influences the lifetime value is your newsletter, because basically your clients get to know you, right? And one of the things that was demonstrated to me that was really, really important is that the way that the newsletter was constructed, that there was an actual blueprint to it. First of all, when you send a newsletter, I was doing it wrong. I had it put together with a little sticker on it, right? And so it was open. You can do it that way, but there's been people who have tested, and you're going to get more people to pay attention to your newsletter. You're going to be able to deliver your newsletter if it's actually in an envelope, believe it or not. So I actually didn't believe it at first, but we actually put our newsletter in an envelope. Obviously, the newsletter, when I send it out, the goal is to build trust with our customer. And so how do you build trust? I mean, in marketing, how do you build trust? Well, one of the things is if you have testimonials, right? If you have testimonials in your newsletter. One of the things is if you sold homes, then they're going to trust that you know what you're doing because you're demonstrating that you just sold homes. So our newsletter, we're going to go over why we put, instead of a just sold card to the houses around everybody that doesn't know us, that has no trust, why we put it into our newsletter. So part of our newsletter has, instead of putting the address on the newsletter and losing that real estate, that back page in marketing that we know sells for a whole lot of money if it was, if it was a magazine, we put our homes there. So when they open up the newsletter and they're looking at it, they can see the demonstration that's building trust that, man, this guy's selling homes consistently. I remember a guy he was doing about $900,000 in GCI, and he went to $2 million, and he did it in 12 months, and it wasn't in the best time of the year. It was like, I think it was in 2008. And I was on a plane with him, and he said, I asked him, what do you do? And he said, a newsletter. And I just kicked myself for not really asking more questions and really driving it down then. It took me 2 years of hearing it and seeing his numbers. He went to 2 million, then to 4 million. The newsletter is scalable if you repurpose it correctly. So it's not just to your past database. It's a way to build deeper relationships with your farm area. It's a way for you to build authority. If you put in your newsletter you're a best-selling author, if you put in a newsletter that you were just ranked number 20 at the National Association of Expert Advisors, that's just building authority and more trust, and it's a communication tool. Does everyone see how that works? So your newsletter basically is the number one tool to position you as an expert, and part of the reason why, and I didn't understand, sometimes when you get it, you're like, I got it, right? That was kind of my experience with newsletter. Because people are more likely to read an article than they are to read an advertisement, right? So most people want a customer to create a sale. The point of a sale is to create a customer. So that's why this is so important, because we're all creating these customers at closing. But imagine if you walked, right when you walked out the line, that same line I had on strategy, that start line, that's the day. The day after closing is when you either appreciate in the client's mind or depreciate in the client's mind. You're either communicating with them or you're not. And no different than the same strategies Jay Abraham uses, you want to use the force multiplier. You want to have as much on the target as you possibly can. And it goes back to the same principles, the ROI. In my belief, it's going to be one of the things that you have the highest ROI in your business. Because most of the people, if you do it right, already know who you are, right? Now, there's other things you can do. In my business, you know what I'm going to do with my newsletter? If I'm trying to recruit, the people I'm trying to recruit, they're going to be on my newsletter. They're going to know that I'm selling homes. They're going to know that I just went to the Grammys. They're going to know that I just wrote a book and became a best-selling author. Do you think they might think about working for me if they decide they're keeping their business options open and wanting to join a team somewhere? So the newsletter, if it's done right strategically, is not just a tool to get you business. It's also a way for you to grow your business by going out and repurposing the newsletter. So how many people are repurposing their newsletter as a recruiting tool? So you have past clients, current clients, vendors, chamber members, recruits, farm areas. The guy that I know, and I'll give credit where credit's due, is Russell Rhodes. I mean, he literally every single month puts his newsletter on the door of his farm area. And his average transaction price is unbelievable. I mean, it's for this area, I mean, most of them, I don't know it because I don't run his business, but it's like 300 and something thousand. It's got to be. Because he's specifically targeting, I mean, there's 3 ways to grow a business. Increase your frequency of sale. How about if you strategically increase your average transaction price by advertising to an area where there's homes that are going to be sold that are in a price that you want to work with, right? So the newsletter has that type of value. When do you send it? You send it monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, whatever you want. You just want to at least start. Me, we do ours monthly. We do it from scratch. The best news is at lunch, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to come up with a way to make it scalable. What would be the hardest part of a newsletter is because to do it right, it's got to be relevant, right? It's got to be, that's not true. It doesn't have to be relevant, but it has to be good. There has to be some thought in it. It can't just be some recipe how to bake a cake. You know what I mean? It can't just be like, oh, look, none of this means really anything, because now you're wasting your time. So you have to actually put some stuff in there, and we realize what agents want is effortless transformation. So we put a lot of time, energy, and effort, and our goal is to be able to not to have to duplicate those efforts if y'all could benefit, right? How many people would like that? How do you send it? Print versus email. Digital always supports print, but you never do just digital. Never. Digital supports your print effort. If you do a real newsletter, if it's a 4-page newsletter, it should be able to be broken down into bi-monthly easing, just repurposing the content you're already doing. So now you have all these tiger leads that are looking at homes, that have been looking at homes for 274 days. They should be getting your bi-weekly easing. Does that make sense? Your communication. So your unconverted leads, the one you haven't spoke to, that might decide not to buy, but then gonna buy, then not gonna buy, they should be getting that repurposed easing version of your newsletter. Print's going to give you the highest open rate. 60% of emails aren't opened. That's why we really believe, and this isn't us, this is really the marketing things that we've learned. So we're seeking out other people. You know, some of our mentors, when one of our biggest mentors said, and I believe he's one of the baddest marketers in the world, said, I've had at least 3 newsletters in my business since 1978. I said, got it. Need a newsletter. Now I just need to know what needs to be in that newsletter. How do we? I mean, we literally flew our team out to hear this guy speak. I don't remember how many people flew out there, but the whole purpose, if we could have just watched one thing, it was really how to master this newsletter. So how do you mail it? This is mine. If you do have a newsletter currently in your business, we would love to see it. Put Ken to Reese on your newsletter list. We'll actually give you some feedback. So if you send it to our office, I would love to look at it. Love to see it. There's people in here that I would tell you, Mike Reese will call you. So I call people randomly all the time, and if I get your newsletter on your desk and I see something real cool, I'm going to call you. If I see something you could do better, I'll probably call you. So I would love to see your newsletter. If you get a chance to look at this one, and it might be on here, you want to have, see where this says win movie tickets inside? That's called copy doodle. The open rate goes up if you just circle the address with a red pen. If you just circle the address with a red pen, they're like, I wonder why they circled this one. The open rate goes up, right? So this isn't me. I didn't have some. This is from the direct marketers that mail billions of dollars worth of marketing material. This is their research. This is just best practices repurposed and applied and adapted for the real estate community, and me just transferring that over to you, what they learned, what we learned. The reason why, and this is just a demonstration, and it was a story that I was told, but if your mom sent you an e-card versus a physical card, wouldn't that kind of feel weird, like on your birthday? You know, I mean, you couldn't even give me a real card, Mom. So that's just the process that goes through your mind when you're thinking, should I do a newsletter? And if I do a newsletter, should I do a physical versus email? People are more likely to read the articles than the advertisements. My newsletter specifically, we're going to go through it here. This is the top. So we have the seal for the National Association of Expert Advisors, positioning ourselves as an expert, differentiation right out of the gate, differentiating ourselves from the other real estate agents as an advisor. This is my favorite. I don't want to have a CMA. I want to have the home pricing index as a financial advisor. You see how that positioning starts to take place? I'm going to go over the home pricing index. It's just your language even changes as you start to position yourself differently than just somebody that comes with a CMA. So this is the top, and in all reality, you're going to want to have also your USP. So our USP will be on our newsletter, right? This is the table of contents. You want to tell them what's in the newsletter? I'm going to go ahead and open one up just so, because I'm like touching the envelope. And is there a newsletter in the back of the book, Megan? No? Who would like a copy of my newsletter? All right, Megan. So here's my newsletter. It looks good. One of the things that really opened my mind with my newsletter is the guy read the first article. I'll be honest, I'm a little sad that this summer is coming to an end. No more lake time, no more warm sunny days, no more backyard barbecues, but I will say I have something 10 times better planned. In September, my beautiful wife Stacy and I welcomed our first born son, Cash, Michael Reese, into the world. I honestly could not be more excited, and the news change is happening in our life. If you just read what I told you, do you know I'm a real estate agent, yes or no? No. It's how you lay out your newsletter. See, people want to live their lives with you. If you manage the client's experience and they said, knowing what I know now, I would send you all my friends and family, and then you send them a letter with relevant information about how you just got back from the Bahamas, or you just ran a marathon, or you just wrote a book, they're going to read it. And if they don't read that one, they're going to read the one 3 months from then. And what you're doing is you're starting to build that relationship, and you're building a wall. Every listing that you go on, my Red Bull kicked in. Could y'all see that? Y'all see it? I felt it. I was like, whoa, got wings. So you want to, I don't even know what I was saying. That's good stuff. Anyone want to tell me what I just said? Yeah. Huh? What'd I say? Huh? The what? No, I'm being serious. Listings? Yeah, but I was going somewhere else. I forgot. All right, that happens from time to time. Just usually not caught on camera. So, this is what I was going to say. The listings, so check it out. What really made me think about it, you go on a listing, they bought that house from someone else that didn't communicate with them after the transaction or gave them a bad experience. So they didn't buy the house from you. Did every one of your listings buy that house from you? No, they bought it from another agent that sucked at communication after the transaction and didn't manage the client experience. That's why you don't have to do 10,000 things. You just have to do a handful 10,000 times better. Can I get it? Got it? All right. That was something was in that Red Bull. So You can see here how we have As Seen on Fox, Yahoo Entrepreneur. This is all positioning, right? This is all positioning us as an expert. Because when me and Jay shot a video, it was ran on all these channels, and we talked about being an expert advisor, not just an agent. And now, because it wasn't ran on prime time, but because it was ran, we can say As Seen on. There's a website that if you ask Megan, I'm sure she could also email you, where you can get all these logos. So that's the article. That's the anchor article. That's from the desk of. Typically what I do, and this is one way that you can do it, you can have someone else write the article, which is what actually happened in this case. Megan wrote that article, just being truthful. Last month, I recorded on freeconferencecall.com. So on my drive into work, I just talked the article, gave it to Mike in the back of the room. He transcribed it, put it together. That way it was spelt correctly. Appreciate it. But you don't have to sit there and write the article. It doesn't work like that. Do you think that article can be repositioned on your blog? Yes or no? Make sense? It all comes back. Here's a copy of my book. I'm not taking that ad out. That's going to be there for a while. They can get one of my chapters because I'm only in one chapter. But they can get a copy of one of my chapters on my blog. Positioning. So get your free chapter of Trendsetters, co-authored by Michael Reese. Trendsetters is an amazing book filled with some of the most successful business minds. Be sure to get your free chapter at michaelreese.me. There's a picture. How many people have who knows what the SIC is? Okay, the Sellers Incentive Club. For every 40 homes, my clients at listing decide and check a box of special provisions to want to make a $395 investment, so that I'll mark it in the agent-only remarks that if they sell my house, they will be put into a contest to give for $10,000. And for every 40 sales, that same Sambuca, what day was it? Was it in August that we gave the $10,000? Oh, it's on the check. August 25th, 2011, at that same Sambuca, at all the agents there. Great recruiting opportunity, demonstrating that we're selling houses. And I gave away $10,000 in cash. Literally, people were blown away. They were just blown away. They couldn't believe we were giving away $10,000. We were actually giving $10,000. And you know what I got everybody on tape saying? They all said on video what they would do if they won the $10,000, and that they love selling Mike Reese's listings. She said that I changed her life. She was paying off bills. So when you're trying to say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, the other agent's going to have control, and you have to have a system to have them want to sell your listings over the other ones. And let me show you one of my systems, which you'll see in the guaranteed listing system that Jay demonstrated. It's one of the key points of differentiation. And when you have it backed by the picture, it's proof. See how it all works together? Got it? Here's the inside. So Mike went next door. At my office, there's a lot. It's empty. They sell Christmas trees every year. They sell pumpkins every year. With our Raving Fan Club card, he went over and said, listen, if I invest in marketing to all my clients to come buy pumpkins from you instead of the pumpkin patch up the street, can you give me some? He said, yeah, anyone who comes and buy one, shows your card, they get a pumpkin free. We put it in the newsletter. He's going to give them a discount on Christmas trees in the newsletter. Can you put that on your blog? Yes or no? Can you email that to all your own converted leads? Yes or no? Is it a communication? You see how all of it works? There's the back. My first newsletter where the homes were was the address. I didn't get it. I actually had to go watch the videos I bought from the conference twice to make sure I didn't miss that one. True story. I was watching it. I was like, am I lying, Mike? I watched it. I was like, Mike, we messed up. He actually said not to do it this way. And we had to go back and make changes to it. Your newsletter should be in an envelope. We're demonstrating on the back here all the homes that we listed. And right now I'm kind of going through the content section on how to create your content. There's 3 types of content. Write this down. You don't have to write it down. I just wanted to say that because everyone else was. It's not real. Only 3. You can remember 3, right? I mean, we just watched that guy. There's relevant, semi-relevant, and non-relevant. It's 3 types of content. I'm going to show you the content and how we laid it out in this newsletter. 60% of your content should be personal content. Opening article, most important. Contest, pictures of a month, your picture of the month, and quotes. Okay? Favorite quote? If you're not as wealthy as you want to be, simply haven't learned something yet. 40% relevant content. Local MLS, housing activity, market, overview, trends, spotlight, news, listings, tip of the month, deal of the month, quarterly vendor list. I'll be honest with you. I doubled my revenue, which I brought value to my lender, and I wanted my agents to bring value to their customers and give their lenders multiple options. And with your Tiger or Boomtown or whoever you use, you should be out there working for joint venture partners. And I'm just kind of circling back to what he said, but this is another place of how you demonstrate your value. You put your lenders. My lender is going to write an article that we'll put in our newsletter monthly. He's building trust with my clients that might want to refinance. And they're happy to provide you with that market data. You can put Steve Harney's data in your newsletter. Was that valuable national data? Can you put that on your blog? Are you communicating to your database? Are you building a wall so no one else goes and takes that listing when you sold them on the buy side 3-4 years down the road? Again, it's not about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done. Why do you want to go spend all the money to go get a new transaction if all your other clients are just falling out the back end, right? And you can have good intentions, but it takes good systems. That's what it takes. You want to be system dependent. You want to be a clock builder, not a time teller. You want to build systems. This is a system. This is a process. Additional tips: add call to actions, trackable URLs, 800 number, call capture. I do think that the best advice is don't just send the newsletter out to on the past client side. Definitely have the first one have the cover letter. Nick Nanton said that, and that's actually very good advice in my opinion. I actually wish I would have done that. So I broke down this to kind of show you, this color grid kind of shows you the different types of content. So you see the market data content in yellow there. You can see the personal article, which is in red, and then you can kind of see how the content's laid out here in the middle. So you have Raving Fan Club, testimonial, Red River Rally. We threw a theme in there because it was OU Texas, and obviously a lot of people around here like that stuff, so we actually talked about that. Optimize your newsletter, Facebook notes, video to YouTube, put on your blog, give to your buyers, use on your listing appointments. What I'm going to do, you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send mine to the expireds. So when I pull up every year, one of my things that I do, is anyone in here from Dallas? I think someone needs you outside. Every year, I pull up all the expireds from the previous year that haven't relisted, because statistically, see, my mind works real easy, and I didn't even remember this story till I was talking to someone yesterday. And the story was, when I first got into real estate, there was 500 homes, and I looked, and it was something like 12 or 17 of the homes in that neighborhood sold every month. So I was like, shoot, if I knock on every door every single month, I'm talking to potentially 12 to 17 sellers. It's more than the other guy down the hall who's been doing it 20 years with 3 listings, right? So it was just my philosophy. It was real simple, and I did it. And we had a call the other day in our office, and the lady, what'd she say, Garrett? She got referred and remembered me because I knocked on her door 7 years ago. And obviously, if I had to knock on doors right now, I'd be knocking on doors right now before I said it was slow, right? So what I'm going to do with my newsletter is, because I understand the communication, building the trust, I'm going to test and start sending it at least for sale by owners. Because don't they eventually make up their mind to interview an agent? Yes or no? Is this good? This was my favorite one. So at this point, I really can answer any questions you have about the newsletter. The newsletter isn't that complicated, but it was powerful enough that I thought that I should talk about it and give you kind of the vision and the view and the direction that I'm going with mine. And I definitely, if you have one, I really mean it 100%. I would love, if anybody does have one, I would love for you to put Kendra Reese's. Is there a way we can get the address? Or you can get it on the website, kendareese.com. Yeah, send me your newsletter. I'll send you something really nice. How about that? I'll send you mine. All right, any questions in the room? Raise your hand. Don't make them too hard because I'm not an expert. I'm joking. I am an expert. I'm a certified expert advisor.
Hello, Mike. Mike, it's Jeff Smith.
What's up, buddy?
We started a newsletter at the beginning of the year. We've had some pretty good success with it. We're adding all of our Rating Fan Club stuff to it. It's been a great medium to get communication flowing. So we'll offer things, and we're getting people to respond to it, etc. I had this tendency to want to depersonalize it for myself and make it generic to the team, and I'm not sure if I've done that correctly or not. You know, you've got Michael Reese splashed all over it. How does your team members, how do the agents on the team feel comfortable passing that out, you know, promoting that? Should I go back to personalizing it to myself more, or leave it kind of, I guess what I would say, unbranded?
Garrett on my team is actually going to test putting them out in the farm. So on his particular one, I've already said if he's committed to do it for 6 months, that I'll be committed to print them. And as a result, we're gonna make his go. See, with the phone system phonality that comes in, if someone calls in and it goes to whoever they want to call. And one of the things you should do is you should spotlight a team member every single month in your newsletter. So, you know, you should spot. If you look at my newsletter, I think I'm showing Angel with one of her clients, right? And then on your blog, you should have your meet the team with their contact information. I mean, you know, it's together. You want to all work together, and ultimately, y'all are a team, you know. So I believe you're going to be stronger together than divided. It's economies of scale. They want to build a relationship with you, and ultimately, this is the newsletter that goes out to the people who do business with me. When someone buys a home through one of my buyer's agents, in my mind, that's my client. And we're in business together. And if they decide to do something different, I'm still going to look out for my client.
Mike. Hello. Hey, so my question is, let's say I'm a new buyer agent that joins your team, and I've got a database of 400 or 500 people that probably haven't been qualified or whatever. Have you kind of thought through how much you're willing to invest in starting to market to my database or anything else like that, as far as team members and stuff like that?
A buddy of mine that was like the #3 loan originator in the world, he had performance goals, so he actually allocated certain funds based upon your production level. So people in this room will probably come back with 50 different ways that they took this to another level, right? For me right now, it's a past client tool. The call comes into our HUD system. If they can either, if it's one of my past clients, it would go to me. If it's one of Angel's past clients, I would give it to her. We have just those core values, right? So it would never be like, oh, you bought with Angel? Oh, but Angel's not here right now, but I can help you. I mean, that's not our office. And so I don't think that we don't have that scarcity mindset, because we operate within those core values. We're all trying to help each other. And I think my team does a very good job at that. So at the end of the day, it's a marketing tool. We're trying to build a relationship with people. In fact, the lady that called in that I knocked on her door, Garrett got the deal. You know, I knocked on her door. Garrett didn't knock on her door. But we're a team. And I think it just all evens out. If someone's not bought into my core values, if they're thinking, and I didn't answer your question, I would make that investment in them based upon any other investment if I thought it makes sense. Garrett is a hard worker. He is at the office every day, and you know, there's skill or will. I can't teach you will. I can teach you skill. He's got the will. So as he got the will, I'm gonna invest in him, because if I lose Garrett, I feel like I would be losing a good asset. And the goal is to get them on the bus and then find their seat. So if I had to do a deal with somebody and say, hey, listen, I'll help you do this, but I would be open to it. I would keep it open.
Jay, is the layout, the format of your newsletter the same month to month, and you just plug in the spaces the same, different data?
It changes a little bit. One of the things that we start is we were trying to have this ready for you effortlessly at this event, but we literally had to say no. We went back to square zero. I've been on more calls about newsletters over the last 6 months than you would ever believe possible. We think we dialed it in, but I didn't want to get something just in the point of getting something to come here, because it's not about pulling the trigger, it's about hitting the target. That's how we operate. And so I believe right now, based upon the core competencies of the people and their demonstration of their expertise in order to deliver a scalable, repeatable process where you could drag and drop articles, article 500 count here, 400 count, different templates and all that, I think we can actually do that. Right now, we're going to have to do it for us just like we did database. We were talking about database a year ago, now we have it. And we gave it to you elites, right? And now we're working on newsletter. We're just trying to continue to invest our resources where we feel like it is in the right order. So hopefully one day, to answer your question, is the template, I'm giving you a good answer. The template is not always the exact same because it's not a templated system yet. But hopefully there'll be arrangements of templates all buried in the best practices and stuff to that nature is the goal. Yeah. She can email you. Can't we email them a copy, Megan?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey. Hey, Mike.
And I got 3 copies up here, so I'm sure some people would like to come look at it. I'll even let someone open one. All right. You can pass them around, huh? All right.
Mike, your thoughts. The only thing I've done right is I've had a newsletter for 3 years, but that's always been me. So recently when I decided to start building a team and allocate...
See, he already made it better. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And
this is amazing.
And allocated a farm to each team member. And I've templated out my newsletter. The section which I refer to as voice, which was always me giving a personal note to the people I sent it to before I got the data, what I sold, what I listed, etc. And a section that basically shows some pictures of activities of what my family was doing.
Yes.
I gave those 2 sections automatically to that particular agent that I said, you're going after this farm. But I thought that would be the way to give him his own voice for the farm that he's going after.
Uh-huh.
Do you think I'm giving up too much power to someone?
No. The best advice I was given is if you want your agents to use it, they do what they call an insert to the letter. And so it's real easy. I mean, in my opinion, you do the newsletter, and then if your agents want to customize something to their past, I mean, if they get my newsletter and the agent did their job of building the relationship and they have an insert, they're not going to, you know what I mean? You can support the agent, I think, really strong by giving them a real strong insert. And inserts are huge in a newsletter. Any more questions? Well, thanks everyone. Hopefully you found that valuable. And this is good. So thanks for sharing that. Anybody else that would give me a copy of theirs, I would definitely appreciate it.